Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right. Welcome to another edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. Today we are honored to have Jacqui Sutton. She is a genre-creating composer, librettist, and vocalist who formerly led the Houston-born Frontier Jazz Orchestra, blending jazz and bluegrass. She is currently based in San Francisco Bay Area, preparing to release her first album of original songs titled Bald. Now, as you guys know, we cover deep politics, but you know what? Politics also concerns what people are going through. It also concerns what people do. And you are going to see that Jacqui fits the bill. Jacqui, welcome aboard. How you doing today?
I am great. Thank you for having me, Egberto.
Well, we've been friends for a long time. I mean, I remember when we met in D.C. for a coffee party. Enough is enough during a snowstorm that
it was cold.
It was cold, but we were changing the world.
Yes.
And you know what? We're still changing the world in more ways than one. Mm-hmm. But anyhow, you have a new album that you're going to be releasing. You're writing a whole lot of songs. And I want to tell you a quick story before you start.
Sure.
My wife has a disease it's a chronic disease called lupus. And in having lupus, she lost all of her hair, or not for a while. And, she just couldn't deal with it for a while. And she was just down about it. And she always wanted to wear wigs. And personally, I hate wigs, but that's just a personal thing. But,
sure.
She wanted to wear her wigs and so forth. And I remember once my friend came over and I just jammed all my hair off. And I said, you see, it's no big deal. I mean, I know it's not necessarily politically correct the way I said that, but I took my hair off just to say solidarity.
Yeah.
Now, so when I saw on your LinkedIn that you had this thing about bald coming out, it intrigued me. So let's start by you telling me the story.
Sure. So I don't know if you can see from my headphones, I am bald. Mm-hmm. And I started losing my hair around 2013. And by 2021, I was hiding behind wigs and really fun head wraps and all that kind of stuff. And something said, I just have to just go for it. I have to just lose the hair. And if you remember when we met, I had these long dreadlocks, multicolor. I was sculpting them. I was having fun with that hair. So, and as a woman, as a Black woman, the whole issue of your identity, what is beauty? What does it mean to be bald in a spiritual sense, exposed and raw and vulnerable? So I just decided that I was going to roll with it. And because I wanted a low maintenance lifestyle, first of all, the wigs were getting to me. They're too hot, too scratchy. They didn't really feel right. And then you also had to maintain them. Mm-hmm. It's like, if I have to go through all this work to maintain something, I'd rather it was my own hair than a wig that I'm sitting on a thing every night. And as I lost more of my hair, even the head wraps weren't really staying on very well. But it got deeper for me because in 2023, I went through a really serious depression. I was overworked at work. I finally walked away. I worked in advertising, as you remember. And, I climbed the ladder as such as that is. And I just got burned out. And I had to leave. I had to go on disability. And just kind of recover my energy. It took about 6 months just for my sleep to get regulated. And then I discovered during that period that Oh, this depression that I'm in right now, after talking with my doctors and dealing with treatment, I'm still in treatment, is that I've been depressed all my life and I didn't know it. I have, just by sheer force of will, just been kind of soldiering through my life and not really addressing it. So part of that treatment, as it was, like my doctor basically helped me understand that for me, music is treatment. Mm-hmm. I also have medical treatment and I see a therapist. All of that, it's this comprehensive approach. But the music is the thing that has always driven my soul. Always. So I just leaned into it. And so the songs that started coming out expressed vulnerabilities of different kinds. And I didn't, it's not like when I sat down to write, I said, I'm going to explore all the vulnerabilities of being bald. What does it mean? It's just that the songs were vulnerable. And I realized after, I've got 11 songs now. I realized after the fact that these songs are answering these questions about exposure and vulnerability and rawness. And the subject matter is very wide, you know? And, in the Black community, dealing with mental health issues is still a challenge, to be very transparent about that. And I want it to be okay. I appreciate that, like Megan Thee Stallion has set up a mental health hub for people, like that stuff really is important. And for me, addressing it, I feel like I have understood myself more as an artist than when I was like kind of shoving it to the side.
Now, interestingly, when you talked about depression previously, and also putting that into, or rather that your music was sort of your safe harbor. Does that mean that when you are no longer into your music, then all the things, the baldness that's occurring, all the depression from the working on the job, is that when all of this took hold?
Yeah, because I had submerged it for years. It's like, I got to have the day at the survival gig, I was doing music.
Oh, wait. So your music, I know you were doing music. So music was pretty much after our gig.
Yes. And now, like the way I described it is like I had to do music in the margins. And now I've decided that music is taking up the whole page.
Yeah, I mean, I love that, right? You finally went ahead and said, I'm going to live my passion. I mean, the interesting thing is living your passion isn't always the most financially successful thing. I can tell you that. I'm an engineer who decided that this is what I really wanted to do. And I can tell you straight up that it's not. The wage scale for both are quite different.
Yes, they are. And I had to really meditate on that. But it almost was like there's no other option because of the mental health challenges that I was having. I just had to just dive in and see what happens. I can't predict the future. I can't predict how the subject matter is going to be received. I only know that this is how music is expressing itself through me now, and it feels like the most healthy expression for me. It doesn't mean that what I was doing with the Frontier Jazz Orchestra, I was doing covers. And I always said my brand is joy. That's still the case.
But if you listen to your songs, like I told you, I went on to SoundCloud because I had listened to them before, right? Yeah. So I went on to SoundCloud, and since we were going to do this interview, I wanted to kind of get the flavor of what you did. And the first thing that came out is, damn, she's good. And then you had an orchestra behind you, and it was like, wow, I've known Jacqui for so long, and we get an email in between ever so often, and I never explored and saw her in this light. So it was cute. And then one of the other reasons that, even though, this is not a music channel or anything like that, I wanted to cover because you turned the music into doing something good for what a lot of women are going through. So I want to ask you in that light.
Yeah.
What are these songs, and what are these songs, and what parts of your baldness are these songs exploring as it relates to not only your personal life but the interaction with others?
That's a great question because there's probably one song, and it's actually the last song in the album, and it's called Bald, that even alludes to hair. The subject matter goes beyond that to talk about exposure. So, for example, I do have a song about depression, and it is, I call it a frustrated dance song.
What's the name of that one?
It's called A Dozen Roses.
Interesting.
And yeah, and it's called that because my personality, I'm really bubbly. I'm that person that shows up at the party as the really, fragrant bouquet of roses that everybody wants to talk to. But underneath, there's all of this turbulence. So it explores like what it's like to show up in this kind of performative posture and have all of this undercurrent underneath. So it has like a cyclical.
Wait. You just said something that is interesting. You spoke about in a performative. In other words, there is a Jacqui back here, and now she's exposed to a whole audience. And in order to cope, she says, I now perform. Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah.
I wonder, you know what? I wonder, when I'm doing my program, I don't think I'm performing, but I wonder how much of that is what people do. Even in our politics, I wonder how much of that is folks knowing the thing, but then when they go out there, they perform to what's expected of them.
Oh, I think you're right. I think everybody has some level of a shield. Like I think these personas that we carry through the day are protective. They're defense mechanisms. They're ways of, really, like I not wanting to deal with I don't want to drag everybody down by talking about my depression. So I'm going to be the one that's kicking up my heels dancing, Right. And that's what A Dozen Roses expresses. And that's just one aspect of it, but it doesn't mean that who I am now, as I'm talking to you, I'm still that bubbly person. I always have that in mind as I recognize what's going on underneath. And so what I've learned to do is give myself more time to recharge after public events where I have to be out and doing my thing, and give myself time to recharge, check in, see how I'm doing so that I'm not continuing to bury whatever is underneath.
And they give me another song.
Okay, so this one is more about sex positivity.
There you go.
So not everybody talks about vibrators, right? So to talk about it in an uncontroversial way, right?
How can you do that?
Well, I have a song called Joyride, which is about...
Okay.
It is meant to be a fun, very kind of like double entendre. It's a very classy song. It doesn't get raunchy, but it's a really fun song about hey, and also, by the way, vibrators aren't just for women. I'll just tell you, I'll just leave that there. But it's
I wouldn't know.
It's an entreaty to, adventure.
Okay.
I have another song called Awake During Surgery. And this one, yeah, right.
Wait a minute. Let me guess. Awake.
Okay.
Awake during surgery. That is a very fearful thing. You're feeling pain and you have no way of controlling or no way of stopping that pain because, after all, you're under anesthesia. They're hurting you.
You're aware of stuff that's going on and you can't do anything
about it. There you go. I did it right. Okay. Talk to me a little bit about it.
That song is about escaping a relationship with someone who was gaslighting me. So the idea, when I think about what it's like to have someone gaslight you and challenge what is true, I see the sky is blue and you're telling me it's purple. That whole process felt like I was under anesthesia, and that I could see, I have a line that says, just because I'm sleeping, I hear you. You know, like I can hear all the things that you're doing. Ultimately the song is about getting out of that relationship, but it's this whole kind of like hazy anesthetic kind of palette. That's how the song is kind of designed to kind of feel this kind of trippiness. And it helped me really, and it's from a relationship from a long time ago. And it took all this time for me to understand how much that relationship affected me. And it was one girlfriend, a friend in my circle she was the only person in my circle who believed me when I told her what was happening in the relationship. And she helped get me out of that relationship. And she actually is the person who introduced me to the man who is now my husband.
Good man. Let me ask you this though.
Yeah.
Why does that appear on an album called Bald?
Because it's about admitting the truth. Okay. It's about admitting. It's hard to admit that you've been in a relationship with someone who destroyed your ego.
And does that have anything to do with how you felt when you lost your hair?
Yeah, really exposed. Like, this is the first time I'm really talking about it to people other than my friends. Like, that I'm actually saying, you're not crazy. When you're in a relationship with someone who is gaslighting you, don't let them quit you. Your truth, what you're feeling in your gut is true. It's true. In fact, that is the first song that came out of this process.
Out of the album? Oh,
yes,
really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
I have no, I don't know why, but it was just this whole anesthesia. I don't know why, but that's the first song out of the gate as I was healing from my really, really deep depression. And mind you, I'm a person who is living with depression. So that means I'm always going to be in treatment, doing therapy, doing all the things to keep myself healthy. So that is a form, to me, that is a form of baldness. And it's also, you can say bald, you can also say bold. Mm-hmm. It's a bold admission because it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing.
Wait, stop for a second. What do you mean by what's embarrassing?
It's embarrassing to admit that you were in a relationship where you were psychologically abused.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was a bit concerned. I thought you were talking about bald and embarrassment. I was about to say,
oh gosh.
No, yeah, yeah. No.
That's another topic altogether. Yeah, right.
Yeah. Because the whole idea of this, of what we're talking about, is really to help folks realize, and in fact, women. Mm-hmm. Being a man, I have to be careful in how I express it, but I always sit back and say, why do you put so much into that thing that grows off your head? Mm-hmm. And like I said, politically incorrect, but it always behooved me how my wife reacted to losing hair when I thought so little about it that I could just shave the whole damn thing off and then say, hey, I kind of like it shaved, Well,
it's a gender difference, right? I mean, like, men are more accepted in society being bald. Women, like through time immemorial. I'll tell you, for years and years and years, until I lost my hair and my teeth, right? Mm-hmm. Those are my calling cards. I'm glad I still have my teeth.
Yeah, and it's all yours.
It's all mine.
Now, let me ask you this. Did you grow up here in Houston or?
No, I grew up in upstate New York, in Rochester, New York.
And then what brought you to Houston?
My husband was studying at UH. He is a wonderful fiction writer. He now teaches as a lecturer at Stanford here, and he teaches creative writing.
So that's why you moved to the Bay Area.
Moved to Houston. Yeah. We moved to the Bay Area for his work, and my working in advertising. I was able to work from wherever I lived. Mm-hmm. So we moved around a lot, and Houston was our longest stop. And while I was there, that was when I formed the Frontier Jazz Orchestra, because I love jazz and I love bluegrass, and I didn't want to have to choose, so I brought them together.
You just blended them, actually, and your music is in fact different, but it's very
air appealing. Now you have a whole lot of projects that you have that you're working on. You're working on the Bald project. You're also working on writing I don't want to call it a play. What is it?
It's a musical, predominantly a musical. It's a hybrid musical / opera.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember when you had Reverend Barber on your show, and I plugged in, and the conversations that y'all were having about multiracial coalitions and fighting the powers that be that don't really like it when Black and white and people of color form coalition.
Mm-hmm.
And that's exactly what my musical is about. It's called Turnstiles. And it is about those repeated cycles of what I call white lash, which is like just like a real reaction against multiracial progress. So it's about those cycles every time. And I really feel like we right now are in the middle of one. You know, all of this that backlash. Yeah. I call it a white lash because it feels, there's, I have to be, here I am being bald and bold and like trying not to hold my tongue. We're in a white lash cycle right now. All of the anti-DEI stuff, which is just, a way to slur, diversity, equity, and inclusion. If you're against that, in my opinion, say the words. Don't just use the acronym to turn it into a slur. But it feels like rooted in white supremacy.
Oh, it is. No doubt. Yeah.
So that's what I'm writing about. And that's a much heavier topic. And it's a musical. I have like a 3-year timeline for developing that.
So you mean you're actually, I should know that you would have done something political given that you're a past coffee party
yes.
member, but it's funny that you even brought up the DEI thing because this morning on my program, I actually pointed out that the 3 most competent people on Donald Trump's he ended DEI, but the 3 most competent people for him one is Latino, one is gay, and one is Black. The 3 most competent people that he has on his cabinet.
Yeah.
And what does that say? I don't know. But anyhow, so what else are you working on?
Well, the musical is going to keep me busy for a long time. Right now, the focus, and I'll have to say, the album itself, I also see music as an act of resistance, or creating any kind of art where you can speak your truth. And so for me, Bald is me speaking the truth for what it means to really kind of lean into your authenticity.
I'm going to ask you to close on the Bald message for women, but before we get there, I want to ask a more profound question with regards to. I do a political show, so I'm going to ask a little bit about politics in regards to where do you think? I think you're in a multiracial relationship.
My husband is white. Yes.
Right. Okay. Now, and I always wondered this: how does he feel about what's going on right now, having himself a Black wife?
Sometimes I feel like it hits him harder than it does me. Not that I, like every day I have to manage how much of the news I take in. I have to time myself because it becomes so overwhelming. There's just a fire hose. But he really, I'll tell you the first time that I think he really felt being othered, and it was during the first administration. It was right after the election, and we were walking back from one of the BART stations, one of the train stations. I'd come in from the airport, and we're just walking down the street, hand in hand, and we were passing by the Oakland Museum, and this very tall, lanky white guy. Now there were a lot of people on the street. But he targeted us because we're a multiracial couple, and he came right at us, got in our face, and made it clear that we were not part of the team. We were not acceptable. He was a Trump supporter. And it really shook Ed. Ed is my husband. It really shook him because he became othered by association in a very visceral way. And for the longest time after that, he had this kind of questioning, okay, when I look at people now, is that person? Is that person? What's in their head? I have no idea. And I had to tell them, as somebody who is Black, I have no choice but to be who I am in the world. With that kind of activity, you learn, you don't go looking for trouble, but you're not surprised when you find it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because otherwise you would drive yourself crazy if you were constantly looking for it. You just kind of have to live your life and not be surprised when you find it and deal with it right then and there. Now, Ed is bigger and burlier than that guy was. He just looked like maybe he could have been packing. He looked so agitated that, I think it was just Ed was managed to de-escalate.
De-escalated it, yeah.
He de-escalated the situation and we just kept on,
Yeah, I mean, it is really difficult the times that we're in. But, I think folks like, I can't wait for your musical, especially since it's going to be political, since I know you. And it's going to be interesting to see what you come out with. Last two questions. The first one is going to be, what would you have liked me to ask you that I didn't? That's the first question. And the second question is, I'd like you to have a message to women who are bald or going bald and having a difficulty with it. But the first one, what would you have liked me to ask you that I didn't?
So I have a crowdfunding campaign to raise funds to record the album. So I'm doing what I'm calling a salon tour, which is basically I've gotten some owners of hair salons to let me come into their spaces to talk about being bald. And so I'm going to be starting that campaign in July. And I would love for people to follow me during that campaign so that I can raise the funds that I need to record the album. So that is one thing that I would love people to stay tuned for the Bald Salon Tour. A message for women who are going through whatever stages of alopecia, because my hair, I don't know if you can tell, but
you have some.
It is imperfectly bald because of the type of alopecia that I have. So there's all different kinds. So I have patches, I have stubble. Some areas just don't look very to me, very appealing. And so I have just, number one, I found other ways to express myself. And, I'm bold and bald, right? So I use eyewear. Really flamboyant eyewear as a design element.
Right.
Also like just support in your immediate support system to have, if you can create that support system. I know that there's a Reddit community for people. But I think one thing for me that was important was not to feel obligated to try to cure it. I know there's a lot of people, hucksters out there trying to sell stuff to give you false hope. I think that the hope that you give yourself is in finding a new way to still be the beautiful person you are inside. And it will register. A lot of times, I don't watch myself. I don't look in the mirror all day long, but people respond to me because of the energy that I have. And I think if you just lean into that and continue your own internal beauty, just project that more, that people won't really notice. That's been my experience.
I am glad that you said that, whenever I see Ayanna Presley, I'm just impressed with how she carries herself and not let externalities change what she is, who she's been, or anything like that. And that is the same kind of, that's exactly what I see in you as well. And congratulations on what you're building with your new musical, with your album, with what you have out there on SoundCloud and everywhere else. I'm going to make sure when we write the blog that all of that is in there. So I want to say, Jacqui Sutton, it's been my pleasure to speak to you after many years with Coffee Party, etc. Thank you so kindly for having been on Politics Done Right.
Egberto, it was my honor. Thank you so much for having me on.
I want to go through that article that I wrote. Actually, I wrote it about midnight. Midnight. Actually, I wrote it about 1:00, just before. It was the last article I wrote before going to bed, because I am completely concerned that enough people don't really see the dire straits that we're currently in. And I'm not telling people to be fearful. I'm not telling people to be panicked. I'm telling people to engage. I'm telling people to act. And if you take a look at the article I wrote earlier this morning was America, this is a 5-alarm fire, and we are at DEFCON5. It is not business as usual. We are in a place we have never been before. At one time, I equated the political fraud we are living through today as just another dose of McCarthyism that, while harmful, would pass one we could easily recover from. But I'm wrong about that. This isn't the past McCarthyism. This is a lot more dangerous. It is not. Unfortunately, the Supreme Court, the Republican Congress, neoliberal Democrats, and the mainstream media have yet to understand the danger. Now, all of these people, let me give you the article. I'll put the article in the chat. It's on Substack as well. Many of these people, what's occurring with Donald Trump right now will affect them dearly. As I'm saying now, every one of these different branches of government is in danger from an authoritarian executive, and it is almost like they cannot see it. The Supreme Court and Republican Congress, for the most part, acquiesce to the corrupt Trump and his administration. And the neoliberal Democrats just blow hot air or follow the let Trump self-destruct advice from an age consultant. What is his name? James Carville. Do nothing. They'll self-destruct. No, they won't. Look at how Tapper handled the speaker with kid gloves. Okay, so no, James Carville have never won the majority of the popular vote. He has never run a majority. Every time Clinton won, he won with under 50%. But that is who many of these neoliberal Democrats decide they are going to follow. You know, I mean, if you want to know somebody who has the pulse of the people, look at the Democrat they make the most caricatured, and that is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. You may smile, you may laugh, you may think she's too young, all of that, but she has the pulse of the working class. If that's why they have to ridicule her the way they do. But continuing, we are at DEFCON 5. In nuclear terms and in terms of fire, we are at a 5-alarm fire. A dangerous fire can simmer for a long time until a catalyst comes to fruition. So you have a home and all the windows are closed, all the doors are closed, and there's a simmering fire. The extra carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, and compression within that room keeps it subdued. It's just kind of simmering. As soon as that fireman comes in, or fire person comes in, opens that door, an influx of oxygen comes in, ignites all those flammables, and explodes. That is what that bill is. That represents that one big, beautiful bill. It is that simmering fire, just waiting to explode. Waiting to explode is when it is passed by both the Senate and the House. You have to determine if you're going to keep that door shut, which is what we are aiming to do. Keep that door shut so that thing can explode. And why do I just say keep that door shut instead of trying to extinguish the fire? Because a Republican Congress, a Republican Supreme Court, and a Republican president, that's all those of us with sense have the power to do. Prevent the explosion. We're still going to get the bad policies from these guys continuously. We will continue to get these bad policies. So all we have to do is work hard to prevent this bill from doing what's called a backdraft. The Republican one beautiful bill is that simmering thing, and we got to hold it. But here's the deal. Let me point out the dangers of the bill, and this is what I wrote about it. That's all important, folks. Trump's average tariffs are higher than under the Depression-era Smoot-Hawley Act. That's the act that made the Depression even worse. Every American pays that tariff to the U.S. Treasury, which ultimately ends up in the pockets of mostly wealthy Americans. This means the working class has less money and buys fewer products. Given the broad base of the tariffs, this guarantees stagflation with a minimum inflation and recession. This has worldwide implications. First, every country's economy will suffer in the short run. They will reduce their dependence and allegiance to the United States as they recover. That will further erode the employment and buying power of the working class. Second, the big, beautiful bill is written in a deceptively evil manner. And I want you guys to listen to these 5 points of this big, beautiful bill. It is looking at it from 30,000 feet. You have to see it from 30,000 feet. Then you have to see what it's really all about. The insidious, evil manner in which it is done, the way it cuts Medicare, Medicaid, SNAP, and all these things. The insidious, evil manner in which it's done shows the conniving extremes Republican would go to fool their MAGA base into supporting it. For example, as opposed to cutting Pell Grants, they make it virtually inaccessible by requiring that a student take 15 hours instead of 12 hours, almost guaranteeing that working students and part-timers need not apply. So you're a part-time student, or you can work full-time or part-time with 12 hours, forget it. You can't get the Pell Grant because they limit the amount of, they say, well, if you can't go 15 hours, forget it, you can't get the Pell Grant. So that's a way they cut the Pell Grants without telling you it's a cut. They just make it inaccessible. Number 2, most people at the low end do not benefit from the tax on tips. They advertise it. Tax and tips, and no tax on overtime. And everybody say, yay, yay, yay. But guess who are the people who can take care of that? The ones who can actually take advantage of that are the higher earning working class, the higher earning middle class, the people that will do fine whether the tax cuts come or not. They will be fine. And those are the ones who can take over or take advantage on no tax on tips or no tax on overtime. You know why? The poor people still are left behind. The poor working class is still left behind because their standard deduction that they were able to take last year, the year before, and always continue to stay the same. And here's the worst. When we look at the top 10% and the bottom 10%, the bottom 10% are not getting a tax cut. They're actually getting a tax increase. They don't tell you that because they bungle it up with the bottom 20%, right? So the bottom 20% got to get a little equally. The lies, the big tapper, all of this that I'm talking about in my little piece here. The time for America to know how this bill would affect them should have come from this independent progressive media person. This should be coming from Jake Tapper. These are the guys that have a full staff to investigate all this stuff. They have a staff that could come out and inform Americans about what the bill actually does. Jake Tapper had him on for 15 minutes. Jake Tapper could not get not one of these questions, important questions, material questions that will affect all of the working class. He didn't get not one of those questions out. Not one. 3, work requirements sound good to receive Medicaid until one realizes that one cannot afford a babysitter or outside care for a loved one, or if you can't get 80 hours in a month, which some people, again, they may live in rural America, not a lot of jobs. So somebody may have a little shop that they want some work in, another little store, a little mechanic shop, and they may ask you to come and work for a few hours. That doesn't add up to 80 hours in a month, but you're working, you're doing something productive, but you're not working 80 hours. Cut your Medicaid. These are cuts that they don't have to say it cuts. They just say able-bodied workers. Well, you have to be able to do these things. The reason the bills are not generally written that way is to prevent that guy in Timbuktu, Missouri, who is working. He wants to take care of his family. But this month, he fell below 80 hours. He loses his Medicaid. And then another month he works 80 hours, he gets a chance to reapply again, wait through all the paperwork to get health care again. Evil. All of this will make people die, but the Democrats, liberal Democrats, they're not speaking that way. They're not saying if this bill passes, a lot of people would have been murdered by those who passed this bill. You have to speak in graphic manner. Democrats have to go into rural America, go in front of that hospital and say, if this bill passes, this hospital closes. Where are Democrats doing that? Why aren't every Democrat that has a website, why aren't they saying, put in a video up? Everybody wants videos. They're doing TikToks. They're doing Instagram, all these things. All of what you're seeing here, I also place on Instagram, TikTok, and all over to spread the message. But we need a lot of people doing this, right? We need everybody doing this, right? So we have Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who is an expert in getting her message out. Guess what's special about Alexandria? You know the people who voted for her? Guess who also voted for her? There are people who voted for her that were MAGA. They voted for her and Trump at the same time. How does that compute? How does that? And you know what she did? She didn't say, I didn't want those votes. She went and interrogated those people who voted for her and then voted for Trump. She knows how to speak to the working class. The other item, most of the green policies Biden passed went to where again? Red states. I repeat, most of the green energy and green job policies went to whom? It went to red states. I could see that as a strategic move by Biden, right? Biden probably said, well, if I make sure that a lot of red states get all these jobs, what does that really mean? That likely means that it stands a better chance of not being cut. When I speak about the evil, about the big, beautiful bill, that's what I'm talking about. These guys don't give a damn about MAGA. These guys don't give a damn about the working class. They don't care about any of that. They want those tax cut benefits at all cost. They want it at all costs. It does not matter who it harms. And that is the message that we have to get to those people. Neoliberal Democrats are the Democrats that are funded almost exclusively by the corporatocracy. These are the guys that prevent policies that really supports working class people. These are guys like, what's her name? Sinema, who prevented healthcare and daycare for your kids. These are people like Joe Manchin, who prevented people from getting. Let's be clear here. Joe Manchin, a neoliberal Democrat, he is from West Virginia. And Joe Manchin said the following. He does not want to give people, give the working class tax breaks, give the working class health care, give the working class support for children care, etc., because he said they will drink it off. This is Joe Manchin, a Democrat out of West Virginia, either the first or second poorest state in this nation. And he is the one who helped, along with Sinema, build back better, which had a whole lot of progressive things that we wanted. Biden, a president that I wasn't initially for. Anybody who knows me know that I was a Bernie Sanders delegate. But better than any past Democratic president since Johnson or Roosevelt, he listened to the Progressive Caucus, and he was in fact passing Democratic, or rather Progressive Caucus policies. Not as deep as we would like to, but better than even Obama. And that's what we're talking about here, folks. That's what we're talking about. So we have to get our act together. Last one, Medicaid cuts will ultimately cause many rural hospitals to close, as many patients cannot pay without it. And this is where, Catherine, I speak about Democrats should be out in every rural area right now. We need to get out of Washington. We need to get out of these places where people are already going to vote for us because they know we're on the good side. We need to go. It doesn't matter if people are going to scream at us. It doesn't matter if people are going to say, get out of here. I live in one of the reddest areas in this county. Okay. And it turns out that I go out there and I speak, I convince, I talk to my MAGA brothers and sisters. I talk, I inject, I do all of this. And yes, you don't change most of them, but you change enough of them to put the fear of passing a bill like this in them. But if we really wanted to get things done, again, what Ocasio-Cortez and Bernie Sanders were doing, going around red areas and getting big crowds, let me tell you, more than 10% of those crowds that Bernie and Ocasio-Cortez got, those were what again? Republicans. They were Republicans. So it is so important. So Bernie is your guy. Great. I think there are a lot of Dems out. and about. Yeah, take a look at what Bernie and Ocasio-Cortez have been doing and getting people out there en masse. And yes, your Catherine, Rachel Maddow does a great job of showing all those different protests that are going around. And by the way, I'm with the Indivisible Kingwood here, where we do a whole lot of that, etc. So yes, you're absolutely right. A lot of people are out there, but we need more to go out there. Not only, again, like I said, when I talk about the neoliberal Democrats not doing their job, my dear, what should be done right now is going into all these areas that Republicans dominate, as Ocasio-Cortez and Bernie did, and stand in front of that hospital. We know what hospitals are closing. I presented an article a couple of weeks ago with the CEO of a hospital in rural Colorado that votes Republican, where he came on national TV and said, if this bill passes, my hospital closes. Now think about a delegation of Democrats going in front of that hospital and having and mounting a press conference and saying, if this bill passes, this is how much this hospital will get cut because of the amount of people who will get cut here, and this hospital will close. And you do that with hospitals. You go to daycare centers. You go in front of that daycare center. You don't need permission. You can get on the public sidewalk, and you say, the X amount percentage of these people who are going to this particular daycare center are on assistance. If this bill passes, they will no longer be. You have to do the work. You have to go out there and earn people's vote. One of the reasons we didn't earn people's vote is we thought we could just throw a whole bunch of stuff on TV. We spent $2 billion, or $2 billion to lose an election. Donald Trump spent $1.something billion to win an election. And you know what was the difference? In how it was spent. They invested in their bloggers. They invested in their independent media. They invested in their lying media. They invested in the grassroots. They invested in all these things that touched the people the closest. They did it. They went out there. They blew up, even though they're lying and they're evil. They threw up a trans person, and they made that the definition of what democratic policy is. We support trans. We support everybody. But they made it seem like at your expense, they're supporting all these whatevers. We have to get smart, and we have to do the job. But the problem is when too many of you are on the take, or I should say too many of us are on the take, right? We can't go out and say, this corporation has been pilfering us, because you're getting a few dollars from these corporations. So when you're like Ocasio-Cortez, she's the highest grossing fundraiser in the aggregate, and she doesn't do it with corporate dollars. I am saying, if we work with the people that are supporting us, we don't have to have those corporate dollars. If you are supporting your independent media, if you're supporting all these different groups, we don't need to have the corporate media that's running this stuff. Look, it's in our hands, and we have to engage. I could go on and on, but you get the picture. Many will see some poetic justice in that this bill will be a disaster for MAGA's socioeconomic well-being. The problem is that their suffering will be a metastasizing cancer that spreads to all. So we don't get to suffer. MAGA doesn't get to suffer from what Trump's going to do to them in a vacuum. That spreads to all of us. And that is something that needs to be mitigated. The Supreme Court has given Trump a permission slip to act illegally. The Republican Congress allows itself to be puppeteered by the president with little pushback, and neoliberal Democrats have made themselves irrelevant. How do you make yourself relevant? Go to those hospitals that are going to be closing and have press conference and bring people over. You're going to have a lot of MAGA come out and scream at you. That will make the press conference get even more visibility. We have to use our heads. We have to be out there. We just don't need to be out in front. Yes, we have to be out in front of that senator's office as well. We must visit our senators and congresspersons' office virtually, through phone calls, emails, with our persons, with our bodies, written letters, fax, in person, and more. and more. Let them know you are not fooled by the window dressing portion of their bill. Let them know you understand the evil within it and how it will be disastrous to the working place. In other words, we don't want to just go out there and scream. We don't want just go out there and say the bill is not good. We want to be able to tell them why the bill is not good. I enumerated 5 major things in this article, but there are scores more that are bad. But these are some major ones that I enumerated in this article. Most of the articles I'm writing and distributing through Substack, Medium, Daily Kos, and other networks expresses the urgency. Most video shorts on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Telegram, Twitch, and other platforms are flooded. I'm flooding the zone with and trying to express this reality. My 2 politics shows, Politics Done Right daily in the mornings at 6 a.m. Central and at 3 p.m. Central, are deconstructing our current path to demise. Absent an intentional change by all of us, absent all of us engaging, making these people know that we are not just going to take it. That is what prevents this bill from passing. But you have to engage. You have to go out there. We're not scared. We're not frightened. We're not paralyzed by fear. We have to make our presence known. Those of you in a wheelchair sitting back or whatever, tell your story. In fact, I have a call and I'm going to ask this now and anybody else who pass this on to your friends and people. One of the best ways, and Michael Lewis points this out, this is the author of many docuseries, books, the works. A story is much better than me giving you a whole lot of stats online. If I can tell you a story about how something affects my humanity, how something affects me, it is much more powerful than me just throwing out numbers and facts and all that kind of stuff. If I can show you how it affects me. So what I've been doing and trying to do is get people's own stories. Tell it to me in 5 minutes. Tell it to me in 2 minutes. Tell it to me in 3 minutes. What I want to do going forward is if you know somebody with a story to tell, somebody that wants something that they know they're going to lose with this budget, or they know they're losing for some kind of care that should be there that isn't there. Give them our info at politicsdoneright.com. Let them email us and let us do either a video interview with them, an audio interview, or just tell us their story so that we can further promote this story and let people know that many are suffering in silence. Most people in America suffer in silence. So we don't get a chance to understand much of what's happening, how people are affected. A lot of people are sitting down there thinking, I am the only one that's going through this. I'm ashamed for what I'm going through, which isn't the case. There's nothing to be ashamed of in this country that the people that are ripping you off are corporations. The people that should be ashamed are the billionaires who are making all their income off of your backs. Don't let anybody fool you. If you're working, if you're out there doing something, those billionaires are making a profit on your back. Nothing to be ashamed of. But we suffer in silence. And because we suffer in silence, these evil animals calling themselves politicians get a chance to push through these things that affect even more evil pain on you. We have to get over that. We have to get over that. So I'm asking you right now, folks, first of all, I hope a lot of what I am speaking about here, Margaret Ryan says, I joined rural outreach in the visible group going to red districts to help them discover why this bill will hurt their small city. Thank you, Margaret Ryan, for what you're doing there. Very important. Very important. Catherine says, stop the Senate approval of the NASTA bill. Please invite everyone to join the fight. That's the reason I'm here on a Sunday, a holiday weekend, and doing this. That's why I'm writing. That's why I'm doing this, Catherine, because right now we can do something about it. Right now we can do something about it. After the bill is passed, it would have harmed your brother, your sister, your neighbor, your auntie, your daughter, and a lot of it will be irreversible. You can't reverse death. You can't reverse the financial catastrophe that will affect many. Let's just give a good example here. This is a good example here. Many people thought they were going to retire, and this is so sad. Many people thought they were going to retire with their 401ks at good numbers. And in one day, Donald Trump knew what he was doing. He talks about throwing tariffs on everything. and their portfolio crashed. Their portfolio crashed. And it wasn't, you can't say, well, they should have balanced their portfolio from bonds to stocks, etc. Because what Trump did caused not only stocks to crash, he also caused bonds to crash. So you have your portfolio here, you're ready to retire in a year or so, and it dumps. Good people, a lot of people who voted for him, and it crashed. Your retirement crashed. Policies matter. The people we elect matter. The media that we have matter. All of this matters. And we have to be the ones, I remember when Obama was running, he used to say, we are who we've been waiting for. And I took that to heart. I took that to heart. Actually, I took that to heart during the run. I started doing all this, gave up my business for independent media. Don't know if kind of crazy to do, but for independent media, because that thing about who we've been waiting for. I knew all this. I'm an engineer. I knew all this technology stuff. I didn't need to hire anybody to do any of this kind of stuff. I could do it all on my own. I could connect the wires. I could figure things out, etc. I said, we've been who we've been waiting for. When I'm complaining about why is it this way? Why is it that way? And somebody should do something about it. I said, why not you? Right? And I am. And we are. And we should. And we should. And we should. And all of us can. Well, not all of us can. Those who have the wherewithal, if you're in a wheelchair, if you're ill or whatever, just do whatever you can. If you have a story to tell, don't forget, drop me a line at info@politicsdoneright.com. I'll tell your story. We'll get you on with your cell phone and have a little chat, that whole thing. Put it out there. Let's stop suffering in silence. Let's start working together. I'm going to be getting out of here shortly. Got to go write a few more blogs to put out there. Like I said, I got to get a few more blogs to put out there. Natalie Lago says, aren't Republicans in Congress dead set on passing this terrible bill? Not disappoint Donald Trump because they fear retaliation. Yeah, they are. But more than retaliation from Donald Trump, they fear retaliation from you. That's why Senator Johnson is so out talking about this bill right now as being a budget buster and all of that. Let's see how far he gets with that. But he'll get far if he thinks he has your support. That's how he'll get far. If he believes that he can get your support, that you're not going to really get his butt, then we'll get the 3 senators that we need in the Senate to prevent the passage of this bill. We still have the time to do it, but you have got to engage. You can't sit back, like James Carville said, and just wait for things to happen. You have to be actively engaged. And while our media is doing a poor job, that's why myself and other independent progressive media folks are trying to do this.
We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead. Number 1, subscribe to our channel. And number 2, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want.